Okay. Welcome everyone. My name is Stacy Brennan and I'm the Curator of Education for the Lehigh University Art Galleries. We appreciate you taking time to join us today for our LUAG at Lunch series, which are student-led discussions about works of art from the LUAG collection. We're joined today with Devon Bibbens, who is a senior. And he is going to be talking about democracy and how it relates to doing democracy and exhibition on view in the galleries. We are available by appointment right now if you're interested in visiting the galleries, and we have lots of opportunities to view works from the collection on our website at luag.org. So really looking forward to this conversation today about what democracy means to us, what it means to Devon, and what it means to the audience that's joining us today. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Devon. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Stacey. So let me go ahead and share my screen with you guys.
While you're doing that, I'll mention to the audience, you're welcome to turn your video on or off, depending on what you're most comfortable with. And if you have questions for Devon, please enter them in the chat box, or you're welcome to unmute yourself. So I hope you'll join us in discussion.
Okay, so we'll be going over Doing Democracy, photography from the George Stephanopoulos Collection, featuring photos from Arthur Reinstein, Danny Lyon, Leonard Freed, and Jacques Lowe. This exhibition explores the unfolding process of American democracy through an array of photographs that shine a light on significant events of the 20th century and the present, featuring world leaders, the media, politicians, civil rights movements, and everyday Americans. The essential question we'll be asking ourselves today is what democracy means to you. We will be asking what images come to mind when you think of democracy, how power affects roles in society in a democracy, and how these photos are significant to the history of our democracy and what they mean to you personally, the perspective of the photographers that were taking these photos, as well as the subjects of the photos and how they viewed democracy. So I wanted to start it off with a little bit of an association practice. I'll kind of go through the pictures of the exhibition, and I would just like everyone to try to write down a few, maybe 5 words that first come to your mind when you hear the word democracy, as well as look at these pictures. So I'll give about a minute for everyone to do that. Would anyone like to share any of the words or key phrases that they immediately came up with when thinking of the word democracy?
The first one that came to my mind was participation. And then I also thought of freedom, voice, leader, and representation.
Thank you. Anyone else? So I'll go ahead and share the Merriam-Webster definition of democracy to maybe kind of get some thoughts going. A government in which the supreme power is vested in the people and exercised by them directly or indirectly through a system of representation, usually involving periodically held free elections. Um, when I thought of democracy, I thought of representation as one of the first words that kind of came to my mind, as that was a key word that stuck out to me, and kind of resonated with the pictures in the exhibition, as it shows different perspectives and how different people may feel they are represented in our democracy, and truly are represented. So I just want to kind of go back to these first two pictures, and discuss perspective and how democracy may mean different things to different people. Obviously, I think we can all agree that the perspective of democracy, from the people at the march on Washington compared to those listening to Rockefeller at the Republican National Convention, may have been different at that time. And I think it's great to appreciate the fact that all of these different voices should be heard and ideally are being heard in our democracy. We just recently had an election, and that is a big talking point between those two candidates that were obviously lobbying for our votes in our democracy. Does anyone have any thoughts as it pertains to perspective and how you may view yourself in our democracy, the power you have in a democracy, and if your voice truly does matter? Anyone?
Like especially with the recent election, I think how our power like in our votes really showed. Like there was so much more campaigning than I've ever seen in an election before. Granted, this was the first presidential election I could vote in, but I think it really goes to show how effective it is for people to use their voice when everyone's participating and using their voice before it comes time to like actually vote.
Yes, I completely agree with that, Tracy. As this election, more than any other, it feels as if there was more campaigning to just get people out there to use their voice, which goes to show you that um, when you don't make that vote, it really does make a difference. So I think it definitely was kind of awakening for many people to use their voice and realize that uh, the reasons that people did march on Washington and things of that nature, civil rights movement, were to just have these voices, and it comes with a certain level of responsibility to go ahead and use them. Personally, for me, some people may feel that they aren't heard. I would say to that we definitely take part in our democracy as much as possible, and to really try to get involved locally and at every level. But again, I really think that it's important to understand that perspectives are different and that we respect everyone's perspective, and that all voices, you have the right to use that voice that so many have fought for, and you also have the right to not use it. But that ultimately, when it comes down to your part in democracy, you should use that voice. Just wanted to wrap things up. Going over the photographers, obviously I went over them earlier, and kind of how their perspectives of democracy differed, and how they might have, how they may have viewed our democracy at the different times that they took their photos, and how they were trying to show our democracy in practice and the current events of their time. Do you guys feel that these photos that were shown today accurately represent the different aspects of our democracy in the 20th century specifically? And if you would like to share any specific photo that really resonated with you in terms of what democracy meant in the 20th century. If anyone would like to share a photo or anything they saw today that really resonated with them and kind of represented democracy in the 20th century. And if we don't have any questions, that was pretty much all I had for you guys today.
We'll give it a second. Did anybody want to respond to Devon's question about kind of what, if any of these specific photos really resonated with you, or kind of if you feel they represent the 20th century?
For me, I think the NBC News one does a little bit, because I think it was a turn on when like media did become a big part of democracy, and like one of the 5 words that I thought of was having a voice. And I think the media has become such a huge platform where like there's a disparity almost between people's voices in terms of democracy.
Yes, I definitely felt like this picture would bring upon some kind of resonation, as media definitely played a part in this recent election, and was a huge part in democracy during the times these photos were taken as well.
It's interesting to me that you both think that way about that photo, and I agree. But it's also interesting to compare it to media now, right? Like the technology has shifted so much in the way that we receive information. And when this photo came out, this is when everyone was getting the same information at the same time, whereas now we're getting it from different places. I'm curious, Devon, from your perspective, do you feel like democracy has changed at all because of that? Because people get information in different ways or can share their voice in different ways?
Yes, I would say that people have more power to get their voice heard and have their voice heard, as there's more outlets to go ahead and share your voice, your perspective. But at the same time, it hasn't changed tremendously, just to the simple fact that there is so much information that ultimately people have to decide where they're really gonna get their main information from. And oftentimes it's few same sources of social media and the same news networks that have been around, like NBC, Fox, things of that nature. Yeah, so I think that, to answer your question, people do have more of a voice to share their concerns and be heard. But ultimately, there still is some similarities in how people receive their information, as we do receive our information still from those main sources of news channels and conglomerates, things of that nature.
Was there one particular photo that resonated with you as you were going through choosing these, that if you had to choose one that really spoke to you for the idea of democracy, which one would that be?
I would say that first photo on the March on Washington definitely resonated with me as an African American male, just in the fact that in this election, I made sure I made it a priority to know that my voice mattered and to go out and vote. And I just think that it's important to kind of respect those before me that fought for that right and fought for their voice to be heard. So that was what really kind of drew me to this whole exhibition as a whole. And if you want to look at the photo to the right and the Rockefeller, and I thought that was great to have those two side by side. As I'm not saying that either perspective is necessarily wrong. Obviously, I believe that everyone deserves their voice, but I think that we should be able to respect both sides of a spectrum and ultimately find a common ground, and that's the beauty in democracy.
Absolutely. I think that's a great way to kind of close today, in that idea of the beauty of democracy and the respect of every voice, unless you had any other closing remarks that you wanted to make.
No, that was it for me. Just appreciate you guys all coming out, and thank you to everyone that was able to participate and share their thoughts and perspectives, as I really did appreciate that.
Yeah, well, thank you, Devon, for a wonderful presentation and for connecting with the exhibition that's on view at the Lehigh University Art Galleries, Doing Democracy, Photography from the George Stephanopoulos Collection. As I said earlier, there are lots of opportunities to view all of the works from the collection, as well as hear additional voices from students, pre-recorded presentations, and lots of activities on our website at luag.org. We have another LUAG at Lunch presentation coming up in just a few minutes, and I put the link in the bio if you in the chat box. I hope that you will join us for a discussion and for additional presentations coming up next week. So, and tomorrow, actually, we have 2 tomorrow and 2 next week. So I hope that you'll continue to join us. Thank you for taking the time today, and thank you, Devon, for your presentation.
Thank you, guys. Have a great rest of your day.
Have a great day. See ya.
See ya.